Hello, and welcome to Chad and Wess Ruin a Movie. If you'd like to contact us, you can get us at chadandwess@gmail.com. If you like what you hear, you can also follow us on SoundCloud or subscribe on iTunes and leave us a review. If you'd like more information, go to chadandwess.com. This week we ruin Deadpool.
Hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of Chad and Wess Ruin a Movie. This is Wes.
And this is Chad.
Hey, what's up there?
Take two. I mean, this is the first time we've shot this.
Definitely the first time we've not done this already. But unlike most of the times that we're saying that, we got like 30 seconds in and realized something was wrong, rather than like the next day.
Yeah, like, hey, by the way, remember that episode we recorded last night? Let's do that again.
Can you come back over real quick so we can do the whole thing again?
Not this time, my friend.
Yep.
So, what are we ruining today?
I think it's this guy.
Wow, a little bit of Deadpool.
Yeah, we just came from the theater. We've seen the Thursday night screening of Deadpool because we refused to be like the plebes and go see it on the day it actually comes out.
Never. Yep. So, we'll just start right away.
Yeah.
Initial impressions, like overall grading.
Oh, I mean, A+.
A plus.
Yeah, I mean, now granted, this is a Fox Marvel movie, not just a Marvel movie, so there's a lot of things that, you know, sometimes there's some baggage to carry with that.
Right.
The last Marvel movie that we saw was Fantastic Four. I didn't give it a letter.
Ugh.
D,
maybe an F.
D to D minus would probably be its grade.
Yeah.
Y minus is probably what the internet gave it, according to Rotten Tomatoes.
Right.
But yeah, so it's funny because there are a lot of people who are like executive producers and things like that on Fantastic Four that are also EPs on things like X-Men and Deadpool, basically all the Fox Marvel movies.
Right.
So it's funny to see them put out like such a quality piece of work as opposed to like that thing.
Sure.
But yeah, I mean, when you look at it, and we'll talk about this eventually, but in the realm of the X-Men universe that the Fox Marvel guys have going on, I mean, it was great. One of the best movies. Like, this is a movie you could take and put up against any of the other Marvel cinematic stuff. So if you looked at Ant-Man or Guardians, which is probably the two closest things to it, as close as you can get.
Yeah, because the comedy involved.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it was really, really good. Now, I will say, I mean, to make sure to hear your thoughts, because I know your expectations were a lot higher than mine. For me, the big movies this year are Batman v Superman and Civil War.
Sure.
So like that's the big two for me. Where I know for you for this one, like this was going to be one of your big ones for the year.
Yeah, I mean, I was really looking forward to it. I look forward to any chance to get into the X-Men universe and keep giving it a try. But I really enjoyed it, and here's the great thing. I don't know how your wife felt leaving it. It's near Valentine's Day, so this was our super sweet date with our wives.
Yeah, it's a nice,
that's it. That's all you're getting.
It's a nice romantic movie.
I mean, it did have a decent love story. I mean, for what it was surprisingly touching. But I really liked it. First of all, like, we'll just get the obvious out of the way. I like Ryan Reynolds. I like the X-Men universe. I like Marvel stuff. So all of those things, it had all of that going for it to begin with. It delivered on the comedy. I think Ryan Reynolds was like made for this part.
Yes.
And he didn't get a fair shake the first time.
Because they sewed his mouth shut.
Yeah, I know, right? The joke I was going to say when we first started, and I totally forgot to do it, was, hey, I really enjoyed X-Men Origins Wolverine, the Deadpool story.
But, oh my god, how many subtitles could you get that?
Exactly. Well, and that would have been fitting for this. But, they really, as expected, the fourth wall breaking, Nikki really liked that part. I expected it and liked it.
Right. That was like a minimum, piece of requirement for them to even make the movie.
Right. The poking fun at himself, not only the previous time he played Deadpool, but also being Green Lantern and things like that. Just the kind of self-aware humor, all the like inside industry jabs, like, Oh, by the way, we didn't say, spoiler alert. if you don't know by the title, we're gonna talk about what happened in this movie.
Yeah.
So
luckily, I don't think we've spoiled anything so far.
As of yet, but I'm about to. So I mean, they're just jokes. But spoiler alert for the whole episode. Don't fast forward 10 minutes and think you're gonna get past that. So
it's all spoilers.
It's all of it. The poking fun at industry stuff, like when they were like, Deadpool's at the Xavier Institute or whatever it's called.
Yeah.
X-Men fan here. Can't even remember the name.
The Xavier House.
X-Men house. And they're like, he's like, it's weird. Why do I only see the two of you? It's like we couldn't afford another X-Men. I'm like, that's awesome. That's what I came and was expecting from a Deadpool movie, and I got it. Of course, lots of violence, lots of cool action. But I mean, I went to this movie for the humor, and it delivered.
Yeah.
So that was the thing where I was like, are they going to do it right? But I knew they were. I mean, with the actor they have, it was not very likely that they weren't going to get it right.
Right. And I think that, one, it seems like they picked somebody who had the chops for it, but also had like the passion and the love for the character. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to guess maybe that's why he signed on to originally play the character, and maybe he didn't realize until after he got into it that's like, wait a minute, this is not Deadpool.
Right.
For X-Men Origins. So I think it's awesome that he was like, no, I'm committed to this. Like, I want to do right by the Deadpool fans and do right by Deadpool himself and come in and do it seriously. I mean, it was a very funny movie. They definitely approached it very seriously, and it was like they took a comic book and just started filming it. They were like, here, film this.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, I think it says a lot for Ryan Reynolds. And he's talked a little bit before about how he likes the character. So it's not just a role that he took, it's something he is invested in.
Right.
And now he's even talking publicly about what is next for him in Deadpool. So Deadpool 2 and X-Force. He's saying now X-Force is on his list of like things to do now.
Right.
I mean, they've proven they can do this. I don't know how many people are going to see this movie. The R rating obviously puts a lot of people at bay. Because you can't bring the kids and things like that to see this movie. We'll talk about that in here in a minute. But so I mean, there's part of the audience that normally goes to see the things like the Avengers and your Iron Mans and things like that can't come see this movie or should not come see this movie. If you're a parent out there and you've got kids like of any age, don't bring them to see this.
Not appropriate for kids. Yeah. I mean, on the violence, on the language, on the nudity. I mean, very, very much.
Yeah.
Not something I would think you'd want to bring your kids to. I mean, I'm not a parent. You are, but I'm not going to tell you how to parent your kids. But you're a bad parent if you take your kids to this movie.
Yeah. It's we were talking afterwards, and I've got a 2.5-year-old, and a friend of ours has kids that are a little bit older than that. I don't know how old those kids are, but like 7 and
he'll be
5
texting you when he listens to this.
Yeah, whatever. I don't know how old your kids are, whatever. But we were talking about it, and he said, before he came to the movie, he was thinking, okay, when they're probably like 13 or something, maybe that he would like take them to see it or like allow them to see this movie. And after watching it, he was like, nope. Like, if it's up to me and they wait to see it until I say it's okay, he said, they're going to be 17 and 18 years old.
Yeah.
He said, but this is going to be one of those movies they're going to be like sneaking to like go watch with their buddies and stuff and be like, yeah, this is that really awesome superhero movie that I'm not allowed to watch. Which, that in and of itself, I can't tell you how many people are going to sneak into this movie.
Yeah.
Like, as far as like teenagers and kids are like, oh, you can't go see that Deadpool movie. It's a superhero movie, so they want to go see it. But now that they've got their parents saying you can't go see the superhero movie, they're gonna be like, "I'll show you." And they're gonna come out, their eyes open to a whole new world.
Oh gosh, yeah. So let's break down the movie a little bit. They started out with Deadpool already being Deadpool, and then throughout the first 2/3 of the movie, it was going back and forth between a scene that we all saw on the trailer where he's on the bridge and fighting, some guys on a busy highway, and kind of an origin story. It was cutting back and forth. He kept, getting into a situation like he's got the guy skewered on the swords, and then it goes back to something about his past, and then it comes back to the present, and back to the past. So how did you feel about that part?
That's one of the few things that happened that I was not necessarily expecting. Mm-hmm. I think there were maybe 2 or 3 things that happened in the movie that I wasn't expecting. There wasn't a whole lot of surprise for me in the movie.
Okay.
Which I'm not trying to jump into things I didn't like, but that was one thing that's like, okay, it's pretty much exactly what I expected. But a couple of the things that I was not expecting was, one, I didn't think they would jump back and forth like that. Or, I thought they might do the typical thing where they start present day, jump back, tell the entire origin story, and then catch back up.
Yeah.
Where, like you said, with this one, it was back and forth the whole time. You didn't get the whole origin story in one chunk.
Right.
Which was different. I can't think of really many other movies where you see that happening.
Sure. And I'm torn because I don't like that being done too much. Like, I don't mind a single flashback, but I've seen movies where they flash back and forth between timelines a bunch, and it can be confusing. With this, the only justification in my mind is they wanted to tell so much of the backstory. Mm-hmm. If they had done it in one big solid chunk, it would have been too much of the movie, too much of a break from the Deadpool character. And it would have been too much about Wade Wilson being this guy with cancer,
right?
And all that.
You're absolutely right about that, because the scene on the bridge, like if you took just the bridge parts and it was like not that long, like if you took it and you edited out all those parts and put them together, they're not actually on the bridge for that long, but because they keep jumping back, those were the significant portions of that.
Right.
So you're
that
right.
One scene cut to about 5 or 6 different scenes, it seems like, of Wade Wilson.
Yeah. So kudos to the director for thinking about the pacing and what that looks like, because you're right. If you had done all origin stuff first, it would have, I think, felt very slow going at the beginning.
Right.
Like it would have taken too long to get to Deadpool and then too long for them to get going with the story. Whereas with this, you start with Deadpool immediately. You have lots of action right off the bat, and then you get a little bit of story, then some more action, then a little bit of the story, and then a couple other things happen. Like you got that back and forth. So I think that was a really cool thing for them to do.
I also like that during the origin part, they weren't painting him as this rosy, cheery character. From the trailers, it seemed like, he is living this life with this girl that he loves, and it's kind of sweet in a sense. Then when you watch the movie and you say, no, I mean, he was already a mercenary. He kind of had this bad attitude. He was kind of jaded and a damaged character to begin with there. So I like that they did that. I was hoping they weren't going to make it seem like, he went from this totally, all right guy to this crazy killer mercenary guy.
He was a family man, but then now he's Deadpool.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So I thought all that was fine. So you were talking about, we had the bridge scene. We're jumping back and forth between origin and that stuff, and you learn pretty much everything you need to know from that. Who the bad guys are. Which, you pretty much learn that, like, that he's looking for the bad guy from the beginning. He's looking for somebody called Francis. Mm-hmm. And you don't really find out why he's so adamant about saying Francis over and over and over again until you get part of that flashback.
Right. Yeah, where's Francis?
Yeah.
So, all right. So we kind of got through that beginning part where it's a lot of origin stuff. I honestly, even when he was Wade in the beginning, Ryan Wilson comedy.
Ryan Wilson?
What? Oh no, that's Wade Wilson. Ryan Reynolds. Ryan Reynolds in movies. Oh, okay. Sorry for the banging on the table and the sounds that it produces. But Ryan
Reynolds.
Jeez Louise, I'm the worst with names.
He's a big Ryan Reynolds fan.
Oh my god. I do really like him, and I get made fun of a lot for liking Ryan Reynolds. But I think I like his comedy. I like his style. I like his pace, his timing, his delivery. So, like, when he was Wade Wilson, jeez, it's all the rhymey words, the alliteration.
Yeah, actually, it's funny because I didn't think about the fact that he's
Ryan Reynolds,
RR, and
Wade
it's
Wilson.
WW.
Yeah. So, that whole part was just like watching another kind of crass comedy movie with him in it.
Yeah.
And I enjoyed that part of it. And then, of course, when it goes over to being Deadpool, I just think it's just a different flavor of who he always is in movies. He's just you add on top of it the costume and the violence and stuff like that. What did you think about the 2 X-Men that we saw in the movie, though?
It was an interesting choice. Like, I would have,
the bargain basement.
Yeah, like it's one of those things. Like, okay, how did you pick these two X-Men? Like, where did you come from? So one, you pick an X-Men that already exists in the X-Men universe that we've seen already from a different actor. Not only from a different actor, but really portrayed in a very different way than what we've seen before.
Right.
And honestly, not even an actor. They, he didn't even, I don't think, did the motion capture. I think it was just CG for him the entire time.
Right. It'd be weird to hear that they didn't do any motion capture at all, because that's how they do like all CG now.
Right.
Everything is motion captured in some way.
I just noticed, like, in the credits, like, while it was listing all of the characters, it said voice of Colossus, and then it listed his name. And I feel like most of the time, if they're doing the voice, but they're also doing the motion capture, then they'll just put, Colossus, and they'll give his name. Right. So I thought that was interesting that they specifically made a point to say, well, it's just the voice. So yeah. I don't know. Maybe it's just the way that they wanted to do it, but whatever. Yeah, and then Negasonic Teenage Warhead, who I'd never heard of before until this movie. I don't honestly even know if she's ever been an X-Men before, which, I mean, honestly, if you're in that universe and you've been an X-Men at some point. Right. Magneto has been an X-Men at some point.
Right.
So I thought it was interesting they picked those. I mean, I guess it's like you don't want to pick some of your big people. Like, you don't want to have, like, Cyclops and Jean Grey show up, especially when you're messing with them with other properties. But like I said,
plus this is a story about Deadpool, so you don't want to, like, you can't put Wolverine in there because he's going to pull away from, it being a Deadpool movie. Too many people are big fans of Wolverine.
Yeah, I will say, I was expecting a Wolverine cameo at any point during the movie, even if it was not him as Wolverine, but him as somebody else.
Just Hugh Jackman, you mean?
Yeah, Hugh Jackman, or something happening. Especially the amount of references that we had to Wolverine in the movie, because there were many. I thought, okay, he's going to show up at some point, and I thought maybe at the very, very end, like the post-credit scene, maybe he was going to, like, open up the door and be like, keep it down or something, and close it back or something. But I just thought that was interesting because they talked about him so much, and he's in this universe, but you didn't see him at all.
Right.
So, what were we talking about? Oh, the X-Men. You asked me what I thought about them. I think I like the fact they picked two X-Men with two very different power sets. Mm-hmm. You had, punchy, throwy guy, and then you had the girl who I guess can, like, blast things.
Right, yeah, I looked up her power set previously to kind of find out a little bit more about her, and, her name is Negasonic Teenage Warhead, and it has some, obviously, she, like, harnesses energy in some way, shape, or form, and it blows up. I can't remember the details of it.
Yeah.
But, whatever that power set is, they don't go into the details. They don't, like, explain it in there. They just show her doing her thing.
Yeah.
But you're right. I like the fact that they picked some people that weren't, honestly, Colossus is huge. I mean, literally, but he's also big in the X-Men universe.
Right.
But he hasn't been featured in one of the films before, like, in a large
big
degree.
way. Yeah.
He's been there kind of in the background. He's one of the students. She's never been in one. And I like that. Both of the mutant villains in this we've never seen before on film.
Yeah.
So I like that everything was kind of, it felt fresh with all of the characters that they decided to pull into the Deadpool movie.
Yeah. I will say they were talking about things that I wasn't expecting to have happen. They were involved much more than what I thought they would have been. Like, they came into the movie from the very, very beginning, which I didn't expect. And then also, I would never have thought we would have been seeing Xavier's mansion.
I was totally surprised when we saw that.
Yeah, like, as soon as they showed it, I was like, what? They're at the school! Yeah. Like, and not just, like, a school, but, like, the same one they use in the movies. Like, they were very, and I guess intentful of the fact they wanted to make sure people realize, anybody who's seen these movies before, that it is the same universe. No. It was the same school, the same sign. They showed the sign a couple of times. And, so, I mean, it's the same place. I mean, and so, theoretically, we're going to see maybe something with them. I mean, because part of the whole reason Colossus and the other girl are involved with this so much is that they know that Deadpool has the capacity to be a great superhero, but he's going around killing everyone. So they want him to come to the school and join the X-Men, not as a student, but just as a member of the superhero team.
Sure.
And so that's their whole point. Can I go get Deadpool to come be a part of the X-Men? Or I'm going to take him in if he's not going to calm down.
Right.
So I thought it was interesting that they did that. And so I'm guessing maybe that's going to be part of the lead up for Deadpool 2 or X-Force or whatever they call it, of him being like, you know what, I can be a superhero, but I've got to do it with people who are like-minded with me. I can't go buddy around with Storm and Cyclops. They're too goody two-shoes for me. I need other people like Cable,
Right.
and that kind of stuff. So I'd be interested to see if that's kind of the route they go.
Yeah, the post credit scene where he talks about that was cool. He's like, we haven't cast him yet, but Cable, he's gonna be a cool guy.
Yeah.
So kind of that foreshadowing. I mean, I hope that happens. I'm assuming since they say that, that's what they're working on, and I'm sure that they probably said that in the media somewhere. But I hope this movie does well enough that they're going to be like, okay, we're definitely going to pursue this.
I did read that they have already greenlit Deadpool 2.
Okay.
Like they even
they greenlit Fantastic Four 2.
That's a good point.
And that got pulled right back because it didn't do well in the box office.
I don't think we have to worry about that with this.
Hope not.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's going to make a ton of money. One, for a rated R movie, and I'll have to look it up. I don't know what the highest grossing rated R movie out there is. Actually, I do know what it is. It's Passion of the Christ, because I saw that one day on the Box Office Mojo.
Huh.
So,
a website I've never been to.
Yeah, it's a website that has like
stuff about box office
rankings and all that kind of stuff. So I will be interested to see if it can become the #1 rated R movie of all time, which I think it definitely can. But even if
that would be cool. I don't have that. I mean, this is, to me, it feels like too much of a niche movie. Niche movie. Niche. Yeah. I don't know. It's too much of a movie for a specific audience. We'll go with the definition of what the word I'm trying to say is.
But so is Star Wars, and it's made $2 billion.
Dude, but Star Wars spans a much larger group of people.
Okay, Age of Ultron or any of the Avengers movies, and they made hundreds of millions of dollars.
That's true.
Yeah, I just when you look at the movies that are in,
but people are able to take their kids to those, and kids want to see it again and again and again and again.
Right.
So I will be pleasantly surprised if we see this movie knock off something like Passion of the Christ, where people had a different motivation to go see that.
Right.
It wasn't just because it was a good movie. It was a good movie. I saw it. I mean, it was tough to watch.
Yeah.
But there was a reason why people wanted to go to that. They wanted to bring people to that. There was a whole kind of movement behind that.
It was rated R for a different reason than this movie.
Oh man, brutal. I think I have it. I don't think I've watched it since the first time I watched it though.
Yeah,
it's hard to watch.
Oh yeah. But bottom line, I think the movie does well, and they're able to move forward with it. The question is, and I think that Bryan Singer, the guy who does all the X-Men movies, has said that he has more X-Men movies planned after Apocalypse. I don't know if the plan is to jump forward in time and then start telling more stories with, I guess, current time X-Men instead of past stories. I know Hugh Jackman is done after his next Wolverine movie, which comes out in a couple of years or something.
Right.
So, I don't know how much we'll see of that, but
it's too bad. He did a really good job with the role.
Speaking of Wolverine, one thing that I did want to point out, there's a couple of things I've actually thought about that didn't really bother me, but if I'm going to nitpick,
sure,
I'm going to pick a couple things.
Do it.
So one of the things that Colossus kept giving Deadpool a hard time about, he's like, well, don't kill these people. Like, why are you killing that guy? Has he ever watched Wolverine do anything? Like, Deadpool has 2 katanas. Wolverine has 6 blades.
Right.
So every time you stab somebody, they're getting stabbed 3 times.
Right. Well, Colossus wasn't bothered by every single death, because obviously there were henchmen everywhere. It's, hey, you've got this guy beat. He is now helpless. He's laying there, and you're going to shoot him when he's got nothing to do. That's the delineation I see there with Colossus being like, hey, they're actively trying to kill you. That he doesn't have as much of a problem with. He's just sitting there.
I feel like he made mention of it a couple of times, though.
Yeah.
Part of it was like the destruction that Deadpool was causing. And it's like, well, really? It's like, you guys have never done that before?
I feel like Colossus's character was a little bit one-dimensional.
Right.
Like, that would be my problem with his character, because he's kind of like just very... I don't know a ton about Colossus from the comics. He might have been that way. He might have been kind of simple, big, strong guy with not much of the brains. But he just seemed really, kind of simple. Kind of just one-dimensional, not a very complex character.
In the comics, and let's see if you remember, because I don't, was Colossus ever not metal? Like, did he shift?
Sure. Yeah, no, he changed back and forth, but I don't know if there was a point when he
He stopped being able to.
He stopped being able to. I want to almost say there was, but I know there were points where he could, armor up and not.
I did think it was interesting because the first scene with him, he's sitting there eating breakfast at the mansion,
and he's armored up,
and he's got a suit on. It's like, really, like why? Like, if you can change almost instantly,
because they already paid to get the CG done for that character.
I guess so. But yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
I don't remember what we're talking about.
This isn't an Iron Man. This isn't a Colossus movie. They're not focusing that much on him.
Right.
Here's a question. What kind of ship was that they were on in that big battle at the end?
I was going to ask you the same thing. It kind of looked like a helicarrier.
Dude, it totally looked like a helicarrier. I'm like, I'm watching it, I'm like, those are jets on the side. This is totally a nod to the Avengers. Like, obviously they couldn't say it, and it wasn't exactly the same ship because they probably couldn't make it look exactly the same. But I was like, that's a freaking helicarrier, dude.
There were a couple of signs like around the construction site as they're walking up to it, and if and when I go see this movie again, I want to pay a little more attention to those signs to see if there's anything giving a nod to like what they're building or like what the construction site is.
Well, I don't think it was a construction site. I think it was a salvage yard. It looked like they were tearing it apart because the big hole in the middle, you don't build something that way. That's
good point.
them tearing it down.
Yeah. That's actually even funnier because it's one of the 14,000 helicarriers that they destroy these Marvel movies. So
right.
It's come to rest right there. I mean, like you said, there's a ton of things that like Deadpool poked fun at and like not only broke the fourth wall, but broke this imaginary universe that they have.
Right.
Like he even said, like in the post-credits thing, he's like, "What, did you expect Sam Jackson to show up wearing a leather coat and an eye patch?"
Yeah. So once again, not saying the character Samuel Jackson plays because he can't probably say that character name, but he's making complete reference to it.
Talked about Batman and Robin.
Did I miss that?
Remember, he's talking about he's like, "Oh, I love you like Robin loves Batman," or like. What is it? Oh, he's when he's introducing the blind lady, and I can't remember her name, but he says, "I live with this blind lady. She's kind of like the Robin to my Batman, except she's black and she's blind, and I love her." Well, I guess Robin does kind of love Batman.
Well, so also, he made reference to himself, like the actor himself.
Right. He talked about Ryan Reynolds. He made reference to Green Lantern.
There was Hugh Jackman. Freaking all over the place, like pictures of Hugh Jackman. Oh my gosh, probably like the thing that really set this thing off was during the opening credits, just the way they were just like already poking fun at everything about the movie and the movie industry and everything. During the opening credits, they're like, instead of saying produced by and having a name, it's like produced by a total tool. Yeah. And all this other stuff, starring some hot chick.
Starring like the funniest guy ever. And it's like a British villain.
So
yeah, I thought that was funny, and I think I missed like whatever the first thing that was that popped up because most of the time I don't.
Totally wasn't paying attention.
And then the second one, I started laughing, and our buddy was sitting next to us, and he's like, "What are you laughing at?" And I was like, "Read the words." Yeah. He read the next one that popped up. He's like, "Ah." I'm
surprised he wasn't reading them. He seems like the person that would have been reading.
I mean, there was a lot visually happening there too.
Yeah.
Because there was like a little picture of somebody that looked very much like Green Lantern.
Oh yeah.
It was so different enough where they're not going to get sued, but it is obvious who that was.
Right.
At some point after the credits, but later on, you actually saw an action figure of Deadpool from X-Men Origins Wolverine, and they pop up
Deadpool,
and they just like focus on it for a second. Everybody just started laughing.
It was right when he said, "Wow, shit just really went sideways," and he's getting thrown across, and he's sideways, and then the action figure is in the same like sideways position when they like cut to it, and it's like it was totally a reference to like shit went sideways in that movie too.
Yeah, it's such a like it's raunchy funny, but then there was also so much smart funny stuff that they did too.
So I'm going to go out on a limb. I've only seen it once, and I've seen these other movies several times, but of the X-Men movies that are out there, this may have been one of my favorite.
Oh yeah,
like,
absolutely.
I want to say number one. I need to, and Nikki was mentioning she hasn't seen all the X-Men movies. I want to watch them all again and kind of get a fresh take on them. Maybe see this movie again while it's still in theaters or whenever it comes out. But I will, kind of give them all a viewing so I can actually have a fresh opinion on this stuff. But man, this movie, it really did deliver on my expectations.
Oh yeah, and like I said, this was not my number one movie of the year, but it was my number 3 or number 4, depending on how a couple other ones go. But
well, Batman v Superman is going to totally bomb, so we can go ahead and knock that one off the list.
This is about to become the rated R part of this podcast. I start swearing and beating the shit out of Chad.
Oh, that'd be cute to see you try. Anyway,
you know that Marvel character, the Blob?
Yep, that's me. I can take a beating. Hey-o.
Anyways, question, and maybe I missed it. How did he know where Ajax was at the end of the movie? Like, how did he know to go to that salvage yard? Did they ever explain that and I just missed it, or was that just something they didn't explain?
I don't remember an explanation for that because she got taken. He goes and gets all these weapons. He goes to the Xavier school to get the B team, and I don't think they left any kind of calling card or hey, come here. I mean, the only thing I can think of is he already knew about this salvage yard from the research he had been doing on where Ajax was, where Francis was. And so he knew this was their base and this was where they're going to most likely be. But you're right, it was a little bit convenient.
Yeah. The other thing that got me about that is, and just to set this up a little bit, so he goes to the strip club to get her. And
oh yeah,
yeah. Don't take your kids.
Take your kids.
You can be a bad parent. That's fine. It's up to you. So he goes to the strip club to go find her, and it's nighttime and it's raining, and so she goes out back and she gets kidnapped, and then he goes home, presumably still at night, to get his weapons and stuff. But then it's daytime when he gets the X-Men, and then daytime when he gets there. So did he take a nap before he went?
Also, who knows how far away the X-Men are from him?
Also, when Ajax and them are getting to the helicarrier thing, they're just arriving and it's daytime, and he's chaining her up. So where were they? Did they go somewhere else first?
Chimichangas.
Like I said,
all explained by chimichangas.
It's the movie almost gave the impression that he got geared up and went after her.
Yeah.
It's just, it seemed like there was a lot of
missing time. I think that they weren't consecutive. This wasn't the next day that he went there. I think he had to find out where she was and do some research, stuff like that. But these are all unanswered questions, and they're never going to answer them. We don't know. Right.
And that's, I guess,
it's a plot hole.
Right. And I think that's one of the good things to talk about, is that it doesn't necessarily get a pass on that stuff. All the other elements make it be a great movie, and I can live with that part and be and roll my eyes whenever it happens.
Yeah.
Whenever I watch it, and still enjoy it, and it doesn't really detract from it that much. But I still have the same kind of standard for this, I would for
sure.
If it was Fantastic Four, we'd be giving it shit too.
Yeah.
And that brings me to a point that I'm curious to see how many people out there who love Deadpool let some things that happen in the movie slide because they're well, it's funny and stuff. It's well, no, if this would have happened this way in any other movie, you'd be up in arms and be well, this is terrible. It's bad. You didn't write the script good, or you didn't direct it good, and all this other stuff. And so I'm curious to see how many people don't mention any of this stuff because they thought it was funny and they thought it was what they wanted.
Yeah, it's interesting if, you come at it from this isn't a serious movie. This isn't an Avengers where they're trying to make a greater universe that makes sense and all this stuff, or if they're going to say, no, we need to hold it to that standard because this is part of the X-Men universe. We've got other X-Men in here. They're going to make another movie with Cable and all this other stuff. So this does need to have continuity and make sense. I'm with you. And probably on a second viewing, that'll bug me. On a second viewing, I will probably be looking to see if there are clues as to how he knew this. He had that whole big map and all the dots he's been connecting to find Francis the first time. There's a chance that it's up there on the board. It could mention something about, something about a helicarrier on the map or something like that. So we'll see if there's anything there. But, it does seem like there's a big plot hole there. There's a big gap in time of her getting kidnapped to him finding where they are. It doesn't really explain that.
Yeah. when the whole time he's like, well, let's go after him. Like, let's go get him. When he's gearing up and getting all of his weapons and stuff like that, he's like, let's go. Like I said, it gave the impression that he was going straight there, or like he was leaving to go after him, instead of, well, I've got to figure out where he is.
Yeah.
Or, oh, he's at this place that I don't remember about. So I don't know, like I said, it's not a huge thing, and it didn't happen a lot in the movie. Like, it's not like they didn't explain how anything worked, but it was just one of the things that got me. As soon as it happened, I was like, wait a minute, it's daytime. I was like, how long did it take him to get here?
Right.
Where is everybody? So I don't know. It was, for some reason, I just caught it whenever I was watching it. But
yeah, no, I agree. I noticed the gap in time, but I didn't think about it that closely. Of like, well, how did he even know where they were? So it's a good point.
Yeah. I'm trying to think what else. I feel like there's one other thing that, like I said, another small thing that bugged me about it, and I can't remember what it is now. But yeah, overall, like, I thought it was hilarious. Like, I obviously laughed more in that movie than I have any other superhero movie.
Right.
Which should have been the goal. If I didn't, then you failed.
Right. Yeah. No.
This
definitely
make a
was,
Deadpool movie.
Yeah. You had to make this character funny, or this movie funny.
It's funny. The director who did this, Tim Miller, he's never directed a movie before. This is his first feature film. He's directed lots of different shorts and lots of different sequences in things. And I think he even did a sequence for one of the Marvel movies. But he's never done a full-fledged feature film before. And Kevin Smith from Fat Man on Batman and everything Kevin Smith does, but
I was going to say, you don't need to qualify.
Yeah,
Everybody knows who Kevin Smith is.
It was on Fat Man on Batman, his podcast, that I heard him telling the story, where he sent an email to Tim Miller, or no, I'm sorry, let me take that back. He was talking about it on his show, and he kept calling him. He's like, oh, this kid who's making Deadpool, this kid who's making Deadpool. And so Tim Miller hears this and actually sends him an email, and he's like, I'm not a kid, I'm over 50 years old. He's like, and this was my last ditch effort to really get into Hollywood, like, and to do something. Like, I wanted to make a movie, and he didn't say how, but somehow this opportunity came up to do this, and he took it and did really, really well with it.
Yeah.
And the cool thing is now I feel like he's going to be able to write his ticket to do other stuff.
Yeah, no, I think that he did a really good job with this.
Yeah. I mean, I hope he doesn't and maybe he does want to make movies that are just like this. I'd say the only tough thing with these kind of things is a lot of directors get pigeonholed into, like, their first big break.
Right.
But good for him. Like, not many people make it into the industry, seems like, at a younger age. You hear about, like your Steven Spielberg started when they were really young. So it's cool that somebody was able to just kind of pick up a huge property like this and jump right into it.
Right.
And do really well. So I thought that was very interesting.
Yeah. I don't get too much into the whole director stuff and following that much. But from my impression from this movie, I think he definitely deserves more opportunities out there.
The and I cannot remember her name right now, but the woman who played his girlfriend, Monica something maybe.
Yeah, I don't remember her name either. But
anyways,
she's on
Gotham,
and she was also on Firefly.
Yep. And she's been on a couple other things I've seen as well, and I just can't remember right now.
She deserves to be in as many more things as she wants to be.
I was going to say the same thing, but maybe for different reasons than what you're saying. I feel like the more that I see her, the
more that I see of her,
the more I see her in things, I think she's doing a great job.
The more I see things in her. Go ahead, Wes.
No.
I promise I'll only interrupt you a couple more times.
Oh, great. Only a couple more. We're getting there, folks. Just a second. We'll get there. But anyway, I think that she's doing... Every time I see her, I feel like I see her doing more and more with the character. Like, I really like what she's doing on Gotham with Leslie Tompkins. I thought she was great in this movie. Like, at this point, it's like, let her be in more stuff. Like, what else can we find for her to do? And I don't know if she's going to be this huge, great dramatic actress. Maybe she can. Maybe she does have the chops for that. But I know the things that I'm seeing her in now are funny and compelling. And, like, she's got this great kind of attitude to her and everything she does. Where, like, I want to see her in more stuff.
Yeah, no, I'm with you, and I joke because she's an attractive woman.
A kid.
I mean, she's attractive, so there's reasons. But, also, I think that she does a really good job. And you and I still need to go and watch Firefly, so you can understand the awesomeness that is that. And she's in it, so there's maybe a reason for you to do it.
There we go.
Anyway, well, cool, man. Any parting thoughts?
No, this is definitely going to be one of my top movies of the year, which is great because it's the first kind of blockbuster movie of the year that we're going to see.
Yeah.
We've got more stuff coming up, but I mean, this is setting the tone. Like, if everything else that comes after this is as good or better, 2016 is going to be freaking awesome.
Yeah, no, I'm really excited for the year and all the stuff that's coming out, and I'm glad that I wasn't let down by the first venture out we had to see a superhero movie this year.
Yeah.
I mean, this had the potential of not being great. I mean, they could have screwed it up. There's a lot of things they could have done, but everything leading up to this just kept reinforcing that, you know what, I think they're going to do a good job with this.
Yeah.
It seems like they're handling this right. Ryan Reynolds is made for this role. So, all of those things looked good, but I was still a little nervous. And after seeing this movie, I'm like, okay, maybe Hollywood is finally figuring out how to consistently do good things with these properties.
Yeah. I mean, and there's a lot of pressure, especially when you look at, like, 20th Century Fox. There's a lot of pressure for them to do well, because if they don't live up to expectations, then you end up with a Spider-Man situation where maybe they don't lose control, but it's like, hey, if we're going to be successful, we're going to have to bring in some help to make this work.
Or just give it back to Marvel and let them do their thing, because they know what they're doing.
We're looking at you, Fantastic Four. Go back. Get out of here.
Whatever, Fantastic Four. I'm looking at you, X-Men. Join the Marvel Cinematic Universe, because that would be incredible.
I was talking to somebody about that, and maybe it was our friend, but like...
Friend. He's been on the podcast before.
Still just a friend.
I know.
Oh, I forgot I can see him.
Yeah, I know, right?
Or they can see me. Anyways,
I can see him. Yeah. Wow, you look different. You kind of look like. Anyway,
you're a big metal pole. So one of the things they could do is, with Spider-Man, it seems like they are really folding him into the universe, where everything he does is a part of the Marvel universe and all that kind of stuff. With X-Men and Avengers, I feel like what they could do is, instead of like making everything the X-Men does affect the larger Marvel universe and like really have to be a part, maybe it's just the one movie they do where they're a part of it and like they come together, they fight, or whatever they do. Or maybe it's a couple of movies, but it's not, they have to be a part of every single thing. And that might be a more approachable way for the studios to be able to get together to make that work, especially for two franchises that are doing so well independently from one another.
Right. Yeah.
Because that's the big question is, hey, if we're doing this good, is bringing them together going to make it even better? For the Marvel side of things, not necessarily. The Marvel side of things doesn't have to have X-Men. They're doing perfectly fine on their own. The X-Men movies are doing really, really well, but the question is, can they be even better by teaming up with Marvel and bringing them into the larger universe?
Don't you want to see Hulk and Wolverine?
Oh, yeah.
Because, I mean, that shit has happened in the comics so much, and, like, they've got a great storyline together.
Yeah.
Don't you want to see, like, the X-Men versus the Avengers, like them having conflict because one's operating as a pseudo-governmental agency, one's operating as a completely private institution? Like, that type of stuff. I want to see those stories.
And as a fan, I feel the exact same way. However, it's not fans that run these studios and make these decisions.
Well, they're dumb.
So, I mean, now granted, I think there are more fans on the Marvel side of the camp than there are, like, 20th Century Fox side, like maybe a couple of people who are involved in the making of the movie, but not in making those decisions. So they've got to look at it as, are we going to make more money, or are we going to be more successful in the long run by teaming up with somebody and letting someone else dictate what happens in our movies? And I don't know what kind of ego 20th Century Fox has or what that looks like. Up until now, we've not seen them do anything like that. Again, like we've been saying for a long time now, Sony is kind of paving the way, and I think they're probably going to wait and see what happens with Spider-Man and how successful that is with a co-studio produced movie,
right,
before they start to be like, well, we want to play too.
Yeah. Well, hopefully it goes well, and we get all of our dreams to come true.
Yeah. Last question for you. So where your expectations were with this movie and how they've met or exceeded them, and knowing your expectations for the other movies of the year, where do you think this is going to fall as far as your favorite films for the year?
Oh, man, they're going to be so different because this one is the one that takes itself the least seriously.
Yeah.
And so it's so in that comedy realm. Sure, there's action, sure, there's all these other things, but it's such a comedy. It's hard to really compare it. And plus, I mean, I can't compare it because I haven't seen the other movies yet. But, I mean, what do we have? We have an X-Men movie, we have an Avengers movie, and we have a DC movie, right?
Well, so here's the way it is in my mind as far as the movies that I'm really excited about for the year. Batman v Superman, Civil War, X-Men Apocalypse, Suicide Squad, Doctor Strange, and Star Wars Rogue One.
Gosh. This is going to probably be higher on the list than Doctor Strange. Probably going to be higher on the list than Suicide Squad. I don't think it's going to edge out Batman v Superman, Civil War, or it might edge out Rogue One, depending on how they do it.
Yeah.
Because it's not the characters I care about.
Right.
You know, I'm going to like it. I'm going to see it probably more than once in theaters.
Maybe.
But, depending on how it goes, I can't say that it's going to edge it out. So it might be a solid 4 for me, which I think is what you said it was going to probably be for you.
Yeah, I think so. It kind of depends on how everything else plays out. The thing is, like, I think everything this year is going to be so good.
Yeah.
Like, there's not... People want to give... Like, Batman v Superman is probably the one that takes the most crap right now. But really, at the end of the day, it's still going to be an awesome movie. Even if people have problems with it, like they did Man of Steel, which I think are just stupid. Not... Whatever. It's still going to be an awesome movie that people are going to...
Don't you insult Superman!
I'm a DC guy. So.
I know you are. It's all good.
Yeah.
I like DC too. I give a lot of crap, but I like DC. I like Superman. I like those iconic characters. But anyway, let's call it a day.
Or a night, whichever.
Or a night. Yeah. Or whenever you happen to be watching this.
Yeah, be on the lookout for a Chad and Wess Watch a Trailer coming up here soon.
Yes.
That'll be our next show we have coming up. And then join us next month for Batman v Superman.
Yes, and hopefully we'll be posting a schedule soon and we'll be able to be more predictable.
Yep. Where can we find you online, Chad?
Oh, we can find me at cbeach512. I did it right. On the Twitters. Also, cbeach512 on Twitch. I stream. Haven't been lately because I've been working a lot on my room here, but that's all done now, so I'm going to be able to start streaming again. You can also... Well, that's it.
Yeah, that's it. You can stop talking.
Idiot.
You can find me on Twitter at PaceHourW10, and you can find our Twitter account for the show at CW Make a Podcast. Somewhere in this area.
Also, chadandwess at gmail.com, or you can always go to chadandwess.com. That is where we should be updating information on there, hopefully.
That's your job, webmaster.
Getting back into that practice.
I'm just the audio engineer. I don't know about no web pages.
Anyway, all right, cool.
Bye-bye.
See ya.
This has been Chad and Wess Ruin a Movie. Don't forget you can email us at chadandwess@gmail.com or visit our website at chadandwess.com. Follow us on SoundCloud and subscribe on iTunes if you like. You can also leave us a review. See you next time.